thankful for her way these stories hold on to the lifetime we won't get back. I know these rivers carry on. People tend to stick to you after time. Places tend to do the same as we do. This river carries on and on.
Hello and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jeri LaMont, and today we are joined by two people that are from Olivet Nazarene University. We've talked a lot about Olivet so far on the podcast, but we actually haven't had anyone officially from Olivet Nazarene University on the podcast to talk about actually something directly related to ONU, and it's about time we did because we're over 50 episodes in, and we haven't had a topic specific to Olivet, so we're changing that right now. I am pleased to welcome both Jeri LaMont and Steve Case to the podcast. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Wow, we're the first from Olivet. That's
yeah,
impressive.
I mean,
I feel honored.
We've had people affiliated with Olivet. Maybe they, teach a class there or something, but nothing. This is the first podcast that actually we're going to deep dive into just a sliver of the community that is Olivet Nazarene University. It's amazing how, if it wasn't for Olivet, there's so many different people that would have never come to this county, or maybe they would have just had a completely different life, or just this county as a whole. Olivet really does bring in a lot of different people to our community.
Absolutely.
And not just Bourbonnais, but the area as a whole. Specifically, I didn't even get to the specifics, but we're talking about the Strickler Planetarium. So, Jeri, let's talk about what's your official title and what you do at the planetarium.
Right. I'm the planetarium manager at Strickler, and so I oversee pretty much everything planetarium related. I oversee the public shows. We have private shows. We have student operators that work in the planetarium, so I train them, work with them. We do have a secretary, Tina, who is the one that schedules shows, and she's the best. So we have her, but then there's her, there's me, a few operators, and I run the show. And
then Steve, right? I know you used to have Jeri's job, but what do you do now?
Yeah, so I'm a professor at Olivet. I'm in the program in Earth and Space Sciences, which is in the Department of Chemistry and the Geosciences. And when I started at Olivet, I was a planetarium director and also teaching astronomy classes. I still teach astronomy at Olivet, still get to spend time playing in the planetarium, but I've moved into some different administrative roles at the college.
Okay, awesome. I guess first, for those that aren't familiar with a planetarium, what's a planetarium? That's probably the perfect place to start, right? What in the world is a planetarium?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So a planetarium is typically a dome-shaped location where stars can be projected up into the ceiling. You can look at the skies. They started out with these projectors where you just see the stars, and they have gone so advanced now. We can fly through the universe. We can look at the galaxy. There's so much that we can do in our planetarium. But there's different types of planetariums, different sizes. The one that we have, we seat 50, and it's just a dome-shaped, flat surface planetarium.
As a kid, it always seemed big. And I mean, for the size that ONU is, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's also just really unique to have a planetarium at all at a school Olivet size. That was one of the things that drew me as a student. I grew up going to the planetarium in my hometown, and I wanted to be at a place like that. I wanted to work at a place like that. And there are just a handful of planetariums in smaller Christian colleges like Olivet.
I would imagine they're few and far between. Where did you both grow up? Are you from the area originally, or did Olivet bring you?
So you're saying, people that were brought to this place specifically for Olivet. That was me.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Flint area in Michigan.
Okay.
And like I said, would go to the Long Way Planetarium when I was a kid on field trips, and just fell in love with the whole experience of being in a space. It just seemed magic to me that you could see the stars in the middle of the day, and they could move them around, and you could be in different places on Earth or different times. And so I came to Olivet as an undergraduate. I was here from 01 to 05. And as a student, I was one of those operators working in the planetarium, which was much different then. It's probably how you remembered it as a kid.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because I've been trying to think back in my mind to those few times I went. And I mean, I was young. It was like kindergarten and first grade. So I was like my son's age,
right.
5, 6, 7 years old. And I've been trying to think back to what I remember. And I just remember it being cool. Like I can't really remember anything specific. I was trying to think, what type of show was it? And I feel like maybe it was just like a walkthrough of our galaxy that we live in, maybe, is what the show was.
Possibly,
I just wish I could remember more specific.
A lot of people remember the old green benches.
Okay.
They were sort of like in circles around the center of the planetarium. And a lot of people remember the old Starball projector. So it was this big optomechanical projector in the center of the dome that kind of looked like a big ant or a big insect.
I feel like maybe that's kind of what and I'm sure it was, because this would have been in the 90s.
Right,
so.
right. So I operated it when it was like that. Then I went away to grad school, came back to teach at Olivet, went away to grad school again, and now I've been back here since, I think I was the director of the planetarium for maybe about 12 years or so, until just about a year ago.
And so now it's all digitized, right? I mean, it's not just a ball with some stars cut out
yes,
in it.
Yeah. When before it was the Starball projector, and then you had probably a dozen different slide projectors all around the perimeter to do all the special effects. When I came back in 2008 for the first time, took over and started teaching, we had just upgraded to a digital planetarium, which, like Jeri was saying, it makes a whole new dimension of what you can do. I tell students we can literally pilot the planetarium from the Earth's surface to the edge of the known universe, and it's really amazing. So people that come that had been there when they were a kid and come back, they're usually kind of blown away.
It's all the more reason I need to go back. So I guess since we're on the topic, I know you, Steve, wanted to kind of talk about the history of the planetarium. How did it start at Olivet Nazarene University?
Yeah, so we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the planetarium just a few years ago.
It's almost as old as the college, because the
college just celebrated its 75th anniversary in this location.
Yeah, I know it's older than that, but I know the location. I thought it was around 70, so I was right.
I think it was a few years ago. So this was, around about the time of the space race. Sputnik had been launched not too long before, and we were, on the race to the moon, basically. And so there was a huge push for space education, science education all around the country. So you'll see lots of planetaria. Is it planetaria or planetariums? I've never been able to decide.
I believe it's planetaria.
Okay, planetaria.
It sounds more legit.
Yeah, okay.
It sounds more official.
Sure. We'll go with that then. Planetaria all around the country sort of being built during this period, sometimes in high schools, sometimes in different colleges. And so ours was built about the same time as the Reed Hall of Science.
Which people can see right from Convent Main Street there.
Yep. And the planetarium's just on the other side of it. So sometimes people say, well, where is it? I'm not sure.
Do you have to walk through the Reed building to get to it? Or
you can walk around.
Okay.
Or a lot of times what groups will do is buses will drop students off at the circle in front of College Church. And then you can see it from there. And you can walk to it.
Yeah.
And so it was really it was a community fixture. So I've talked to people my parents' age who are like, oh yeah, I remember going to the planetarium when I was a kid. And so I feel like it's touched the community in a lot of ways. Lots of people have memories of it, and it's a really unique It's to get to, I mean, the next closest one is the Adler in Chicago. So we're the only one for our region.
There's no other college near that has one that before
where's the
Chicago?
Joliet
closest?
Junior College
Okay.
does have one. I don't know if that's closer.
Well, JJC is, I mean, Joliet is, I would say, closer.
Yeah,
But-
a lot more I feel like have been popping up across Illinois, and more digital ones too.
And I feel like if you're going to travel all the way to Joliet, you may as well go to Chicago.
Yes.
At that point, it's like, just go to Chicago. It's really not going to make that much more of a difference because Joliet's already 45 minutes away.
Sure.
You may as well just take the extra 15 minutes or so and go to the city. So
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, the Adler Planetarium is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
right
Adler
there
is
on the
really
water.
cool.
I have never been to Adler, but I've been to Strickler. That's the only one I've been to.
Okay.
Obviously, I need to revisit that and then explore other ones. As far as before planetariums existed, was it pretty much like, okay, here's a map and here's the planets that we know of?
I think
and
people went outside,
they probably did, right? Telescopes and all that.
and there was less light pollution.
That's true. Very
Yeah,
true.
well, and what for me, what makes it so amazing as a teaching tool is because, just like you're saying, we've got maps, we've got star charts. When we're teaching, about, say, the motion of the planets or how the sky changes over the course of the year or over even the course of the night, we can show these observations that I always remind my students, like, if you were just watching the sky, trying to figure out the path of the planets, you would be making observations for years, right? You'd have to go out every night, year after year, plot where the planets were, figure these things out. So one of the amazing things is to sort of use it as a time machine. And suddenly these concepts that we maybe think we understand really become clear because you're sort of seeing it in the sky above you in real time.
What is the planetarium used for? Obviously, we're looking at planets, we're looking at stars, but on a daily basis, what kind of classes, I would imagine, is it being used for?
Sure. Well, I'll talk a little bit about the classes, and then maybe, Jerry, you can talk about the shows. So we use it a lot for our astronomy classes, sort of for obvious reasons. We're talking about finding constellations, identifying constellations.
So what is a
understanding-
constellation?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So
No, it's okay. It's just,
a group of stars. Orion, well, gotta be careful because the Big Dipper is technically not a constellation.
it's
part of-
not?
part of a larger constellation, Ursa Major.
So what is the constellation that the Big Dipper is a part of?
Yeah, so the Big Dipper, so that shape, the Big Dipper is what we call an asterism, just like a shape you can find in the stars. The official constellation that it's a part of is the Big Bear, Ursa Major.
Come to a planetarium show, and I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, you can't give away everything, right? I guess I just didn't realize that. But is Orion's belt, is that a
So
constellation?
Orion is a constellation.
It is.
And his
okay.
belt, those three stars, that'd be another
Yes.
good example of an asterism.
Okay.
Yep.
So what are some other? Those are the only ones I know. Or
Well, yeah,
I
it
guess
sounds
that
like, sounds like you should come to a planetarium show.
would. What's another famous one though?
In the summer sky right
Curiosity.
now, and I always get it wrong. It's either Scorpio or Scorpius. I always say the wrong one, whichever one it is. The Scorpion. It's visible in the summer sky now. That's it. And then we've got the three that make up the summer triangle: Cygnus and Aquila and
Lyra.
And Lyra. Yeah, very good. Thanks. Yeah. So we use it for sort of making our students familiar with the night sky, kind of prepping them before then we actually go out into the field with the telescopes. We use it to talk about the planets, how the planets, move through the sky over the course of the year. We use it to teach about the seasons, right? Why do you have longer days and shorter days at different times of the year? It's one thing to sort of see that in a book and the tilt of the axis. It's another thing to see it play out, like where is the sun going to rise? Where is it going to set throughout the year? And then because we're a digital planetarium, we can take them to Mars and say, okay, look, we're going to go to Mars now. We're going to look at the surface of Mars, talk about geology on Mars, or we're going to go to the outer planets and talk about the systems of moons. And we can literally, well, not literally, not really. We can basically fly them there. And now we're in orbit of Jupiter and we're looking at, Jupiter's moons. So it's a really powerful teaching tool. So we use it for lots of classes on campus.
Now, my question is, and it's just because I'm thinking of someone that might be listening to this and they don't know a lot, just like I don't know a lot. What is the whole point of studying of the stars and the planets? What is really the benefit?
Sure.
Because I think some people think, oh, that's a waste of time, but it's not. There's actually a lot of maybe everyday things that get used that comes from the knowledge of studying the planets and the stars and the solar systems and all that stuff.
Absolutely. So I would tackle that from two different sides, and we kind of do this when I teach astronomy. So astronomy, the students that are taking astronomy are usually not science majors. They're taking it as their general ed science requirement. And so often they have that same question, like, what is the point, right? So on the one hand, we talk about culture, we talk about history, we talk about the sense that like the astronomy has really been humanity's shared culture for thousands of years. So just as one simple example, sometimes we'll talk about the calendar, right? Where does the calendar come from? Why does the date of Easter, for instance, jump all over the calendar, but the date of Christmas is fixed? If you're looking at a lunar calendar and you're looking at maybe Islamic holidays, why does Ramadan sort of move throughout the year? And then simple things like, why do we have 7 days in the week? And where do those come from? And by the time that I'm done with them, I hope they realize that we sort of live in a culture that has really been built around our knowledge of the night sky that most of us probably don't have anymore, even though we still have all these vestigial remains of it. So there's that sort of, that cultural awareness part. And then the other part that we talk about is just what does it take to be a well-informed, scientifically literate citizen today? What does the solar system have to do with us? Well, we need to understand the interaction between, say, the sun and the earth if we're going to build power systems and satellites that aren't going to be fried by solar flares. Or we need to understand the inner solar system if we're going to realize, the legitimate danger posed by things like near-Earth asteroids. And, why should we fund space exploration? What does it do for us? How does it protect us? How does it benefit us? So those are some of the things that I talk about in class.
Okay. Awesome. I like your Cliff Notes version. That was very, that was very, I know there's so many, I know it's a big question to answer, and there's obviously many different reasons.
And then the simplest answer is just curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody goes outside and looks up and says, what is all that and what does it mean?
Well, just the fact you bringing up the calendar just now, I'm like, wow. That's right. I completely forgot. Like that's where the calendar comes from. So it's just it makes you just think a little more next time you flip through another month in your calendar and you're like,
Which literally means month. Month is moon.
Okay.
Month. So, yeah.
See, I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that one either.
So, Jeri, let's talk about these shows. Are these shows open to the public that people can see at the Strickler Planetarium, or?
Yeah, we have both private shows and public shows. So typically we have public shows at least twice a month. Some months, not that many times, but usually the first and third Saturdays of the month, we have public shows that evening. And they all include a program and a live star talk. We also have a roller coaster ride that everyone loves.
A roller coaster ride?
A virtual roller coaster ride.
See, I'm going to have to take my son because he's got a thing about rides and roller coasters and yeah.
My kids love it. I feel like everybody loves a roller coaster ride. We end with the roller coaster ride because it's a good time.
I mean, I'm fine with a virtual one. I can do that, but not a real one. So I'm all in for this one. Absolutely.
Some people get motion sickness.
No, that's true. You still could get motion sickness, couldn't you?
Yeah, but you don't get that crick in your neck, right?
From the from the jolting or the Let's talk about more on your side of things, Jeri. What's your fascination with the planetarium or stars, or what's the thing that gravitates you most towards a planetarium?
Yeah, I can just tell you my story on how I got there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I studied geology and then stuck around and taught some labs at Olivet, just oversaw those introductory labs. And they needed an astronomy lab instructor. And so I got pulled into that position. I don't know if Steve knew how much I knew about astronomy or not at the time, because I had never taken an astronomy course. So I just dove in head first. Okay, I've got to learn this. I've got to figure it out. And I loved it. I didn't know how much I would love it until I got into it, but just loved it. So did that for a couple years. And then Steve talked about the position opening up for planetary manager. And I was like, yes, I do want to do that. And it has been the most fun job, the most fulfilling and the most fun job that I have ever had. just a really good time. I love bringing people in and seeing them in amazement, looking up, kids just being curious and looking up, and I don't know, invoking that sense of wonder is just really cool. And most people really enjoy the planetarium. So it's great to have a place where people are coming and having a good time.
I can't imagine anyone not enjoying it. I mean, it's the unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still to this day, we've done all this research for thousands of years. There's still all these unknown things.
There's so many questions, and during a show, we get lots of questions.
Yeah, what are the questions?
It is the best part. It is my favorite part of any show. Generally, I've noticed that the younger kids often have more questions and more exciting questions. That's not always the case, but I often get asked, do aliens exist? And so I talk about how we don't have scientific evidence of that, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And, sometimes the grown-ups are looking around, why did you say that? But it's true. And I'm not going to, squash their curiosity. So that's one question that comes up. I'll get asked how hot the sun is or how big different things are.
How hot is the sun? I don't remember.
So what I do is I rush over to the computer and get on Google and type those questions in real quick because I don't have those numbers in my head.
You don't have? I would think by now you would,
I
right?
think Steve knows probably how hot the sun is.
Well, it depends on what part of the sun you're talking about. Or the surface or the core.
Now we're getting technical.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, sometimes it's just like, I don't remember that specific number, but here's what we do know and here's how we would find out.
Yeah. So is the core of the sun hotter than?
Yeah. So the core would be on the order of millions of degrees, and the surface is on the order of thousands. I don't want to say a number because I'll probably get it wrong. Yeah, very hot, but not as hot as the core.
Yeah.
Do you know the number in Kelvin?
Well, it's basically the same at that scale.
Okay.
Because you're only off by about 300.
Oh, okay. It doesn't matter.
So you talked about those questions.
Black holes. They always want to know about black holes.
Yeah, that's another one.
Dark energy, dark matter.
Yeah.
Dark matter.
So explain, what is a black hole?
I feel like Steve will do a better job explaining that one. So
Okay, I'll try.
I can explain things, but it really helps to have the planetarium because I can demonstrate it. I can show things. Yeah, I'm going to hand that one over to him, though.
No, but you're right, because those questions in the planetarium, it's so often like, let's go look at one. Here, let's spin the sky around and let's find one and let's go there and let's talk about it. So black hole, shortest answer is if you've got a star that's massive enough, right? And when it ends its life cycle, so the sun will never do this, the sun's not big enough, but when it ends its life cycle, you got to think of the star as a balancing act between some outward force and the inward crush of gravity. And when a star uses up all its fuel, that outward force dies and nothing, if it's big enough, nothing can resist the collapse due to gravity. And so it collapses down to an infinitely small, infinitely dense point that we call a black hole because at that point, nothing, not even light, could escape from it if it got close enough, if it got close enough to the star, got beyond its event horizon. So there's some of the most bizarre things in the universe. They stretch our understanding of physics. They were predicted theoretically before they were detected observationally, but they're out there and they're teaching us crazy things about the universe.
So do things get sucked into these black holes then?
Yeah, so if you have often what happens if you have a binary star system, two stars that orbit around each other, and one becomes a black hole, it can then, the mass of the other star can kind of be spiraling around it. And that's usually how we find them, because as it's like water spiraling down your drain, right? As it's falling into the black hole before it crosses the event horizon, it gets really energetic and gives off a lot of heat and energy. So we can see them that way. So yeah, but the big question that I sometimes get from the kids is like, well, are black holes going to swallow like everything? And so I said, well, let's just assume magically the sun became a black hole. It would still have the same amount of gravity. It would not suck the Earth in. It just meant that there would be a point that if you got close enough to the sun, you wouldn't be able to get back out. So they're not like giant space vacuum cleaners.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I like with my imagination, I like to envision a black hole as like this portal into another dimension, but I know that's,
we can't prove it's not possible, but
some time traveling, if you will. But,
Interstellar.
Yeah.
There you go.
The Interstellar. Is that what? I still haven't seen that movie. Is that what happens?
Science pretty right. Well, yeah, more or less.
Sort of, yeah. More or less, they go to a black hole.
Yeah. So the other thing that blows the students' minds and the kids' minds is if you have enough gravity, time runs differently in a greater gravitational field. So theoretically, if you were close to a black hole and then moved back out to a safe distance, time would have run more slowly for you. So time would have passed more quickly, maybe for your friends you left behind, which is what happens in Interstellar. Spoiler, sorry.
What's your favorite thing about space? Or your favorite fun fact that you like to share with people when they come into the...
Well, I do like to break people's heart that, the Big Dipper is not a constellation. I just like seeing people surprised on that one.
Aww.
No, I mean, I do it in a nice way. Yeah, here's the Big Dipper. It's a part of the larger constellation, Ursa Major, and the Big Dipper is an asterism. So that's one thing I do like to share in shows. As far as space stuff, so my husband's a real space junkie too. So it's kind of nice to talk with him about different things. And
should have brought him. Man.
Really, you should have. But he's really into space exploration and NASA. And so we are kind of following a little bit the Artemis launch. So that's going to be the new mission to the moon. So NASA's planning to go to the moon. They're planning to put people on the moon around 2025. That might get pushed back, of course. But
are people going to live there? Or
no.
Are they just putting them?
They're going to put the first woman on the moon. So that's super exciting.
Hasn't been anyone on the moon in a while.
Yeah.
Right?
It's been a long time.
I don't know the last time.
At least for Americans. I guess I don't know who the last person on the moon was.
Was it early 70s, the last mission? And and no one other than the U.S.
But it was all staged. Right?
Oh, yeah, completely a hoax. You heard it from us, guys. Is this a conspiracy theory podcast?
Oh, we came to the wrong podcast.
Yeah, sorry, this is the wrong podcast. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Kankakee Conspiracy Theories. But Strickler Planetarium is not a conspiracy. We did land on the moon. What other?
Yeah, we have a show about landing on the moon. So that's a good one. Dawn of the Space Age. It's about the Apollo missions. Yeah, come see that one.
Perfect.
Talking about things that we're super excited about right now. And again, the thing about having a digital planetarium is all of the new things that we're discovering, we don't have to wait long to be able to pull them into the planetarium and show them on the dome. Our databases, we can update those. And so, for instance, the really big deal in astronomy right now is the James Webb Telescope, right? Hubble's replacement that was just launched. And we'll be beaming back data really, really soon. So we're excited about what that's going to show, because one of the things that makes astronomers really interested about telescopes, the farther out that you can see, the farther back in time you're seeing, right? Because if you can see a galaxy that's 10 billion years old, 10 billion light years away, you're seeing as it looked 10 billion years ago. So we're really hoping, for instance, the James Webb gets us some answers about maybe even the process of early galaxy formation. So that's one of the things I'm looking at right now and really excited about in astronomy. The other thing you talk about...
Aliens, too.
Talk about breaking students' hearts in the planetarium, right? My favorite lesson is when we're talking about the motion of the sun. We talk about the motion of the sun across the ecliptic, the constellations that it passes through. And so those are the signs of the zodiac. So everybody knows their zodiac sign. And so we talk about, what their sign is. And so my favorite part is showing, okay, well, your sign lines up with where, what constellation the sun was in when you were born. And so we'll ask them what their sign is. We'll set the sky for that date. And then we'll see that their actual zodiac sign is not what they've grown up believing. And their horoscope doesn't actually work for them.
Yeah, most of them are off. There's a few that are right.
Some of the really big ones, but most of them have shifted over the past couple thousand years. And
how many people sign up for astronomy thinking it's astrology?
It's probably more than I want to know.
Oh my goodness. So many people think I do astrology. It just in conversation. I don't know how to correct it. Yeah, okay.
there's relations, but at the same time, completely different.
Yeah, there's a lot of relations, especially when they first started a long time ago. I mean, Steve knows more about the history, but when astronomy and astrology, first came about, they were interconnected. There wasn't a big separation between the two.
It's what a lot of astronomers were doing. Were casting horoscopes because there was this idea, well, obviously the sun affects things on the earth and the moon affects the tides. So these other lights that move through the sky, surely they should have something to do with things on the earth. Well, that's actually not the case.
Right. We eventually learned that. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. So let's separate. Let's separate these two a little bit.
But that's a fun lesson because students would be like, I thought it was a Libra. My whole life I've been a Libra.
So you're telling me I could come in and say, okay, my sign is I'm Gemini, and we could look and it would be...
We could set the planetarium for when you were born and the sun probably wouldn't be in Gemini.
Wow. See, there's a service in there. I feel like ONU could make a boatload of money. Find out when your real
what your real sign is.
Find out what your real sign is.
Yeah.
Personalized.
You
sessions.
think you're a Gemini, but you're not.
There are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to space. The motion of the moon. How the moon works, I feel like is a big one.
How does the moon work? We know it's not cheese. We figure that out by now.
Mm-hmm. Or even lunar eclipse. So we had a lunar eclipse not too long ago, and I showed how a lunar eclipse works, where you've got the sun, then the earth, and then the moon, and the sun or the earth is blocking light from the sun to the moon. And people were just so confused. That's how it works? Yes, that's how it works. Oh. And I guess there's just so many things you can show. Or we just talked about seasons and changing. So we just had summer solstice a week ago.
Yeah, I think it was a week ago from today.
Yeah, a week ago from today. So the show that weekend, I showed what summer solstice is and where the sun rises on that day, where it sets. And I had an older gentleman come afterwards, and he said, I had no clue what the summer solstice was. Thank you for clearing that up for me. I was like, you're welcome. Yeah, there's just a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah, because there's 4 solstices. Right? 4 solstices?
2 summer solstice, winter solstice, then fall and spring equinox. So on the equinox, you've got equal, day and night. And then the summer solstice, we've got the longest day of the year. And then winter, we've got the shortest.
Okay. Is there a separate website for Strickler? Or
Yeah, strickler.olivet.edu. You can link it below.
I can link it. It'll be linked in the show notes. It sounds like the shows kind of change from almost week to week.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it every couple of weeks?
Each month we'll do a different show.
Okay.
Yeah, so in August we'll be doing July. That third weekend in July we'll have a show about the eclipse. And then next month...
Do we have an eclipse coming up?
2024.
We had one...
Solar eclipse.
We had one sometime in
2017. Has it already been that long?
Yeah, it was the year my daughter was born.
It was the
total it was 2017.
So and in the path of totality. So with the total
and I remember I remember in the news it was like, don't look at it with your everyone was like, you have to have these protective.
Yeah, don't look at the sun.
People were giving out like protective eyewear.
We were at the farmer's market for months leading up to that.
That was Steve giving out the protective eyewear.
The eclipse glasses, which became quite the hot commodity. We had the total solar eclipse, the path of totality passed through southern Illinois. And then just a few years from now, 2024, same thing. The path of totality is going to sweep right through the United States and pass through southern Illinois. And so if any of your listeners have not seen a total solar eclipse, right? That's when the moon completely blocks the sun. It gets dark in the middle of the day. The most extraordinary thing you'll ever see. And this is probably 2024. It'll probably be the last time in our lifetime that you'll be able to see it like without going too far. I think the path this time will kind of sweep up through Indiana, so you won't have to quite go as far. But the difference between from here, it was near total, so maybe I can't remember if it was like 95 or 96 or 97%. But the difference between a near total eclipse and a total eclipse is worth the drive. Absolutely.
How long does that total eclipse last for? Is it just seconds? Is it minutes?
It depends on each eclipse. The path of the moon is a little bit different for each eclipse, but it was maybe 3 or 4 minutes of totality. It was a significant time period.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can't remember how long it'll be the upcoming one, but probably on the same order.
Yeah.
Did you catch the last one from here? Did you look at it?
I remember looking at it, I believe.
With protective eyewear.
With protective eyewear, yes. Yes. I'm not going to the eye doctor after this podcast to see about my, no. Yeah, I remember seeing it, and I don't remember it having, like, it wasn't a total eclipse, but I remember it looking very strange.
So the Eclipse show does a great job of talking about what it is, how it works, what to expect. So that's to look forward to. What's going on in the skies this summer, though, Jeri? I was going to ask. What people, if their people are, outside, like, I'm not going to go to the planetarium or don't have a chance, but what's going on in the night sky?
Yeah, so you can still catch the planets are in alignment. So that's pretty cool. If you wake up early in the morning, I think 4:30 or so, you can go outside and see the planets lined up. All of the naked eye planets are in their order from the sun. And the last time this has happened, I believe, was 2004, December 2004. It's like every 20 years or so. So you've got Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and they're all lined up. So that's pretty cool. But if you don't want to wake up that early, you can go out and you can see the summer triangle. We talked about that. I'm trying to think what else. What's
the summer triangle?
So those are the bright stars from the constellations Steve mentioned, Cygnus, Lyra, and Aquila. And so we've got Altair, Deneb, and Vega. They make up the summer triangle. And so right now it's going to be a little bit further to the east in the sky, but then in August or so, it'll be right overhead. So you'll look up and you'll see that triangle. It's pretty easy to spot.
I would think so.
Yeah. But there's meteor showers in August, beginning of August, end of July, I believe. Can't remember which ones they are.
I can't at the moment either.
Leonoids, maybe? I don't know. That's not right. I don't know. But you can look these things up, too.
Right. Summer meteor showers are the best.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll talk about them in the planetarium show.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And
I'll harbor the secret of the dates and the names until then.
Speaking of secrets, do you have any secrets or tips do you know much about telescopes and how to properly use them?
Yes, we do.
Because I know so many people, sometimes they just have these telescopes that have just been laying around in their house for who knows how many years, and they think, they listen to this podcast, they're like, I think I got a telescope somewhere in the house. I'm going to go dig that out. And so how do you properly use a telescope, especially in this summer season?
First, I'm going to plug the Kankakee area Stargazers. That is our local group of stargazers. And they will actually offer, usually in December, just open their meetings up to the public and say, or January, and say, if you got a telescope and you want us to help you use it, we can do that. They meet at Strickler usually the first Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. So you can pop into one of those meetings. And Steve and I are both able to help with telescopes, but I think that would be a great resource and a great place to start if you have a telescope or if you want to join the stargazers and you like looking at the sky.
Yeah, they're a great group of people. Yeah, and the other question that we get a lot of time is, well, maybe I'm thinking of buying a telescope. What kind of telescope should I buy?
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot to be said about that. Usually...
do you have to spend a lot of money?
Well, you usually kind of get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's how it works, right?
Yeah, so I tell people, if they're really interested in astronomy, you want something that's not just off the shelf from Walmart, because using it will be frustrating. And sometimes the most important part of a telescope is the tripod that it's on.
Yes.
If you can't point it and hold it stable, then it's going to be really frustrating to use, even if maybe the optics are okay. So usually, maybe a couple $100s. And the other thing to think about is, do I want a refracting telescope, the kind probably that you would get off the shelf at Walmart that uses lenses, or do I want a telescope that uses mirrors, a reflecting telescope? And often if you're just kind of getting started, but you don't want to spend maybe thousands of dollars, usually a reflecting telescope is the way to go.
Or a pair of binoculars.
That works too?
Binoculars can help with a lot. You can see some details on the planets. You can see some galaxies. You can see some nebula. Binoculars are great, especially for a beginner. And they're easy. With a telescope, you have to set it up. You have to move it. Binoculars, you can just easily scan the sky, move them around. I love binoculars for that.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't think about. Like, I got binoculars for bird watching. Take them outside, and just lay on your back and just sort of scan them across the Milky Way. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I never would have thought about that either. That's good to know. Anything else?
I guess I would say if people are interested in, well, hey, I want to come. Jeri's kind of mentioned private shows, right? I've got a group, maybe a camping group or a church group or something like that. We are open to scheduling those shows pretty much whenever. So you go to the website there, you can fill out a reservation request form, and even along the lines of, well, I really want to bring a group. Maybe we're working on a Boy Scout badge, and we want to talk about these specific constellations, right? We're happy to use the planetarium as a teaching tool and sort of cater to your group's interests or what you're looking for. Yeah,
cater to the community. So it's a good thing to know that something like that is open to the community. I think a lot of times those of us that aren't intertwined into Olivet in some shape or form don't really think of it in that way. We just think, oh, that's Olivet Nazarene University. You go there for school, and that's it. So,
and we get lots of teachers bringing classes. We get field trips, like
I would
you
imagine.
Were saying.
Yeah.
And so again, maybe it's a teacher that has never been, and they're like, well, I've got a lesson on astronomy for fifth graders. Well, like what? Tell us that, and we can work with that, and you can bring your class for a field trip.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm trying to work on creating shows that are catered to each grade level and what they would talk about. But that's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I would like to get everybody into the planetarium. I think everybody should experience it at least once in their life. It's just too fun.
Absolutely. Jeri and Steve, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, for being on, and everyone go support the planetarium, Strickler Planetarium at ONU.
It's never cloudy in the planetarium.
No, clear skies.
That's right.
Always. Clear forecast tonight. Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this podcast with a family member, friend, or neighbor that you think might enjoy learning new things about the people and places of Kankakee County. Also, a special thank you to our patrons for helping make this episode possible, including Karen Bishop, James Reardon, Jake Lee, Jesse Arsenal, Dave Barron, Daryl Damper, Samantha Rocknowski, Blake Iverson, Travis Garcia, Jane Bostwick, Dawn Harrison, Simon Topless, Scott Wright, Carrie O'Connell, Jamie Race, Joanne Barry, Anthony Vicelli, Eric Olson, Dan DeBoard, Jeff and Rosa Carroll, Teague Dreenan, Sandy and Steve Twait, and Rose Lucky. To become a podcast patron, go to KankakeePodcast.com and then just click on the Patron tab. If you pledge $5 or more per month, you'll also hear your name announced on an episode. There's also other rewards like early access to new episodes, unedited versions of episodes, even video versions of select episodes, podcast merch, discounts on special events, and so much more. Your monthly pledge is truly appreciated. Our monthly goal right now is to reach $400 per month. And right now, we're about 37% away from reaching that goal. So please sign up for the patron program today at KankakeePodcast.com. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll. Talk to you soon.
This river